You know, we often talk about things that we shouldn't do in a mix or talk about something that makes a mix work. But I don't think we've ever talked about things people say we shouldn't do that can work in a mix. And with so many rules in audio, it's easy to dismiss certain techniques because they aren't the practical way of going about them. But what about being experimental or creativity in general? There are times we have to go about things in a unique way so we can come up with interesting results. Well, by the end of this video, you'll understand how I use some of these forbidden techniques to my advantage. So what's happening, fam? Miami here with JST, and we don't really have a lot of time this video because we have a lot of stuff to go over, so let's just hop into it. Make sure to subscribe, tap that notification bell and like button, even though my transition game was a little bit lazy. We have a lot to cover. Let's get into it. First technique people would grab a pitchfork and send an angry mob at me for. Reverb on the entire mix. I know, I'm a madman sometimes. It's like you woke up today and chose violence. Well, the thing about using reverb on the whole mix that scares people is knowing when to use it. It's very situational, but there are a few scenarios in which it works best in. 1, when you're trying to make a song feel more alive. 2, when you're trying to make a specific part of the song sound different than the rest. 3, when you're mastering and the whole mix you received is way too dry. And 4, you're just working on something slow enough that it doesn't sound like a mess when you do it. So let's say we wanted to make the song feel more alive, or it's like it's being played in an arena. You can easily accomplish this with reverb. Just don't forget to put it on Ascend because we want to be able to eliminate the low end buildup that's bound to happen. Check out this example. Pretty dope, right? But let's say that we like the way a song is already, but just want to change a specific part of it to sound more washed out. And this can just bring an element of excitement to a mix. We'll just automate the reverb so that it comes up when we want it to. See how that gave a dynamic that wouldn't have been there otherwise? But we're gonna take it even further than that. Let's take a listen to a mix that we received that was just way too dry for anybody's taste. Now, if we don't have the stems of the original song, there's no real way to fix that or gel it together. But let's see what happens if we just add a tiny bit of reverb to this. So in my opinion, totally possible to use reverb on a mix. Not my first go-to, but it definitely works in a desperate time. And reverb's a time-based effect, so it would literally be desperate time. I thought that was funny. On to the next one. So this is one that people feel like is a no-no, but I do it all the time. Starting the mix with vocals before the instruments. You know, we typically start with drums because it's the backbone of the song and what sets the tone, but in my mind, vocals are kind of what does that. I mean, we have amazing instrumental bands out there these days, but the expression from the vocals are what keep me interested throughout a song. I also feel like when you start with mixing the instrumental, you often lose sight of all the little nuances that are in a vocal take. It becomes something that you fit into the song versus something you build the song around. So I would typically start with a part of the song that I'm really into. Let's take a listen to a dry vocal like we just got a session and we're hearing it for the first time.
All the vampires walking through the valley, move west down.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but it's really hard for me to start mixing when I hear a vocal like that anyways. The first thing that I would do is throw on a familiar vocal chain that works. And once you've dialed something in once, you pretty much have a starting point for every time that you do this. One thing I tend to use as a starting point is this Howard Benson vocals preset. So we're gonna check out a before and after. All the vampires walking through the valley, move west down Ventura Boulevard. All right, great. Now I have a main vocal that I enjoy the sound of and I can work with. And once I have something there for the main vocal, the backups and harmonies, well, they become really easy. Some people like to use the same settings for both. There's this preset from Dan Braunstein that works really good on backing vocals, just for you guys to know. And regardless of the chain you have set up, as long as there's EQ, compression, delay, reverb, and saturation, you're on the right path. If you really like how I got this sound, make sure to download your free trial of Howard Benson vocals today. And now that we've done that, let's add instrumentals in underneath and see how that sounds. Remember, we did nothing but just throw on a preset. All the vampires walking through the valley, move west down Ventura Boulevard, and all the bad boys are standing in the shadows, and all the good girls are home with broken hearts. You see what I mean? The key is to just have a good go-to chain, and whatever that is for you, tweak it until it works 9 times out of 10. On to our next topic, using MIDI guitars. MIDI guitars are starting to sound really good, man. You know, people say to use them on your demos, but it's honestly blown my mind how good some of these virtual instruments are starting to sound. The first time I even knew that you could do this and get away with it, I was watching this Nail the Mix with Joey when he was doing Chunk No Captain Chunk. There was a lead guitar that was apparently a programmed MIDI guitar. I'd heard the song a million times before and I never knew that, so it threw me off. So I had to try this with rhythms to see if it would work. Then I did a mock version of a Spiritbox styled song in which I used all MIDI guitars and no one even knew until I told them. I was using Odin by Solemn Tones, so let's take a listen to that. Now, I know that might feel a little genre specific, you know, aimed a bit more towards the gent crowd, but the fact that that's even possible is insane to me. So don't be afraid to try that one either. Let's go on to the next one, overcompressing. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because it's simple. When it comes to things like vocals, bass, and drums, don't be afraid to slam the compression. Let's listen to that same song that we did for mixing vocals first, turn off the compressor in Howard Benson vocals, and switch it out for an 1176. We're gonna do this on a 20:1 ratio, hitting between 5 to 10 dB of gain reduction, and see how that sounds in the song. All the vampires walking through the valley, move west down Ventura Boulevard, and all the bad boys are standing in the shadows, and all the good girls are home with broken hearts. And just that easily, overcompression is proven to be useful in cases. It brought out so much more character in the vocal and it made it a lot more spitty by doing nothing more than just ignoring the rules. And here's another rule that I really like to ignore. This process kind of gets pushed on mixers when they start getting into it, and then people blame them for their lack of progress on it. Mixing without taking breaks. This is sort of a reverse of the other things. It's more of a technique that should work but doesn't always, and I want to explain why. When you constantly take breaks when you're mixing, you start to lose perspective of the direction you were headed in before you stop. It's kind of like when you get inspired to do anything, you know? That initial spark is the drive and mood that puts you on the path. So when you break it up into different time periods, you lose a little bit of that. Maybe you were really happy when you started working on it, took a break for a day, then you got some really bad news and you went back to that track. It's not going to yield the best results for you, you know? And I go back and forth about ear fatigue, and to be honest, I don't really think that it's as big of a deal as it was when I started, especially when you're using high quality headphones or monitors. So that's just another one of those concepts. And maybe the most important of all of these, mixing without using sends. But we're gonna give that its own video because a lot needs to be discussed there about auxes, sends, and buses. And trust me, that's gonna be well worth it. So let's run over all of these one more time. Reverb on the whole mix, mixing vocals first, using MIDI guitars, overcompressing, and taking ear fatigue breaks. And with this info, I beg you to think outside of the box once in a while. We don't have to follow the mold every time we choose to open our DAW, because with every new tool, hardware or software, a brand new world of possibilities is opened up for us. Do you use any of these techniques? Do you have any in your mind that you think I missed? Leave it in the comments below and I will chat with you fine people, like I always do. If you're an engineer on the come up, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, you only have to do it one time, and tap that bell for notification so when a video drops, you know the location. Till next time, I will catch you guys later.